Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Authentic Conversations. If this is your first time, welcome. I am Amarelis.
And I'm Susan.
How are you, Susan?
I'm doing great. And we all know that everybody has a lot going on, time of year, time of the century, time of our lifetimes. Like, hey, there's a lot going on right now. So it's really important to take the time to just kind of, take a moment and connect with whatever sounds right to you or whatever allows you deeper introspection or just a moment to reset, right? So yeah, it's good. So if you're joining us, we're really happy that you're joining us, because that means that you're taking a moment to just reconnect with yourself, because we're just mirrors for what's happening for others, right? So if we feel the chaotic energy and others are feeling the chaotic energy, then you'll find us, and together we'll be able to just kind of take a moment and pause and reflect, and then forge ahead.
Yes. We get so excited doing these videos that's the energy that happens. I'm telling you, because we talk about energy, right? And even though we are over the phone and not close to each other, it's this a powerful energy that I always feel when we record and after we record. My whole week gets pumped up. So one thing that I want to touch base, we're always talking about different subjects on Authentic Conversation. And you mentioned the time of year where we're happening right now with holidays, just one that just passed, um, and connecting with ourselves and allowing ourselves to have our own energy and healing. And I wanted to touch base with you, Susan, because I did have one of our main fans who was talking to me and is going through a hard time of grieving. She lost somebody. And I know that this year, more than ever, we as a world have been talking about grieving and with everything that's happening. So I want to honor her, and she loves our videos. And she just asked if we could talk a little bit about that. And I know that also during the holidays, when we lose somebody, it gets really hard because this is when we remember them.
And I think what happens is so grief is a process, and it takes a very long time to work through, and there's different stages, and whatever stage you're in, just be compassionate about that stage, whether you're angry or you're sad or you're feeling overwhelmed, whatever it is that the grief is presenting itself as, just know that that is something that you need to honor, right where you're at, and it's okay. I think a lot of times we as individuals, maybe as women, maybe men also, I can't speak for men because I'm not one, but we try to put on the brave face, and we try to make others feel okay because we don't feel as okay as we would like to, or as okay as we feel like society wants us to. People are uncomfortable when you're uncomfortable, when you're grieving and you're sad, and you're feeling all sorts of ways, or you're angry, it makes people uncomfortable. So what we do is we try to neutralize the room or neutralize the space by neutralizing our feelings, and that just puts them on the back shelf and keeps them hanging around for longer. So I think it's really important to do the things, not try to move away from what it is that you're feeling, but like honor what you're feeling. You want to set that empty chair at the Christmas table, you set that place setting, and you take a moment with your family or whoever is there, and you honor that. It's like, we try to keep it happy for the kids. We try to keep it, let's teach the kids about, memorializing, grieving, understanding, being a part of the process. Maybe, there's a significant other of the person that we lost, and, we want to tiptoe around that person. And I say, like, let's just meet it head on. The reality is that, where you're at is where you're at. So, don't be disingenuine to your feelings or try to tiptoe to allow other people to be comfortable. Because if you're grieving and you're feeling it in your way, everyone is grieving, but they're feeling it in their way. And, don't let it be unspoken. Does that make sense?
Oh,
You know,
yes.
set the empty table, put the little, put the picture out, say a little something special, find remembrances, maybe there's a jar where everybody writes their favorite memory, and maybe you don't go through them now, or maybe you pass them off to somebody who will want to go through them, or, it's another time you go through them, or maybe you sit and go through them right then and there. Wherever you're at, just meet yourself where you're at. But don't numb it or disconnect it for the sake of allowing people to be uncomfortable, because that's uncomfortable too for you. So I think it's really important, especially at the holidays, or, when the occasions are happening, to honor and remember them, because we know that we're all still connected by energy. See, I'm going to bring it back to energy. You know, we are energetic bodies, we're human flesh and blood and bone, but like we're energy. The spark at the center of us is energy. Our soul is energetic. So energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So what lives in us is all of the ancestors and all of the people that came before us, and we pass that along to our next generations. So, my grandparents are still with me because there's sparks of them, there's energy of them that lives inside my heart. So remembering and talking about it and feeling it, just brings them closer. So whatever it is that you believe, the energy is still there, and how you cultivate that energy is the outcome of the experience. It can be a very beautiful time with holidays, because it can be an awesome time to honor and remember. Maybe nobody sits in that chair, grandpa's chair.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or, and just, or everyone takes turns. Maybe everyone takes turns sitting in that chair, and has a moment and tells a story. There are so many really beautiful things that you can do to honor the person who obviously made a difference, or showed you something, or shared something with you, or was a part of your own growth. So it's kind of cool, but it's really important not to try to disconnect from it, because that, like I said, just puts it on the shelf and leaves it hanging there, so there's no need to
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I always know that for me, it's always important to talk about the person. I feel that the day you stop talking about this person, or keeping them in your memories and showing them to others in your family as your family grows, if that's where you're at, is the day that they sort of, because it feels like that sometimes, with your great grandparents, you ask we just did a family tree at homeschooling, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what's this person's name? And that becomes really sad, because as it trickles down, it gets forgotten. And I think they're still part of us, but we don't have that root. And I think that that's one of the things that's really important for me, is that and I hope that when I'm not here, my kids will continue that, right? Like remembering that name and that picture, or at least the name, because the picture still can be lost, right?
Yeah.
Where materials, but it's that tradition of telling the stories.
It's the storytelling, exactly.
Yes.
And that's where, that's where it's at. It's like the storytelling. I chuckle. I can only imagine the stories that, my kids will tell about me, and it's like, so that's why we create those memories while we're here. And even honoring others is creating memories and storytelling. It becomes traditions, it becomes a part of who you are, so that it doesn't get lost. It's all energy.
It is. It is, and I mean, God, let's talk about energy. This whole month we had just a lunar eclipse. I'm very connected to the energy of the moon. And as a Cancer, I was having a hard time with my emotions. And one of my things, I'm the life of the party, and I have a hard time at allowing myself not to be that, to be sad. But doing this work in the process, I've also come to realize to reach out to my connections and saying, having a hard day today. Like, why being a human being can be so hard. Like, I just want to cry. Everything that somebody tells me becomes, I'm hearing it 3 times more than what it really is, right? I'm taking it personal.
Mhm.
And awareness, right? So it's been great to be aware that I was feeling sad. And
And you
that's
don't have to
where I
do
was.
anything about it. You can just feel sad, like it's okay. It's okay. There's this, again, it's others feeling uncomfortable that makes us disallow our feelings. So it's the discomfort of others. So we're uncomfortable with others being uncomfortable around us. So we're just going to make nice,
Yeah.
and it's okay. It's expected, especially during times of grief. And whoever labeled crying as bad or weakness, right, needs to be dug up and retract that statement, because crying is a release. Your body holds tension, it holds on to things, and there's a saturation point where something has to go. So it's either a verbal explosion, it's a fist against wall explosion, or it's tears. It's like we suppress that, we hold that back. Why? Because other people are uncomfortable when we're crying.
Okay.
So we perceive our crying as making people uncomfortable, or as weakness, but really it's a release. And studies have shown that the chemical makeup of the tears are different based on the situation. You cry at a wedding,
Wow.
joy. You cry at a funeral, tears of sadness or grief. You cry when you're nervous, right? It's tears, it's anxious tears. But the chemical makeup of the tears are different because the body is releasing whatever it is that it needs to release. Same kind of thing with an exhale, right? Your exhaust, whatever it is that you're putting out, it's got to come out somehow. So stop seeing, especially young men, we tell boys, don't cry. Babies cry. What is that?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
that?
And I also wanted to be aware, and I think that November, correct me if I'm wrong, with being with depression. And sometimes I question, and I literally, do I need to see a therapist, or do I need to address this? Is there a chemical imbalance in me that, I don't want to be all against medicine? Am I making sense? Right? Like, where we can say, I want to heal myself, and I know that I'm energy, and I know that I can be with God. But I also want to be aware that if I see this pattern continuously coming, where
Sometimes
is the
we need help.
line to ask for help?
Yeah, sometimes we need help with it. Sometimes that, we just need to feel something different so that we can resolve what we were feeling. November is, think about all the things that happen, right? We start to enter the dark phase. Okay, the days get shorter, the nights get longer. For some areas of the country, most areas of the country, there's a bit of a temperature swing. If you're used to the 80s, it's the 60s. If you're used to the 60s, it's the 30s. So, we have to put on layers. We have to, we get heavier, there's less movement. So there's more stagnancy, which makes our bodies feel slower, more sluggish, heavier. So, seasonal affective disorder is a thing. And, November's kind of the onset. And then it's like everything else. Then we start to settle in and we find the new routine, and, and we manage to find our way through. But, for a lot of people, it's family time. And, sometimes family time can be really challenging and you have to be okay with that. It's like you just know going into those holiday events that it's temporary,
Oh,
and you find the joyful parts of it, or you look for the joyful people that you want to connect with. Just because the family gathering is happening doesn't mean you have to sit and listen to
mm-hmm.
same old about, so you get to choose where your energy is expended and whose energy you're taking on. So you just have to
Absolutely. And it's
remind.
okay to give yourself that time to sometimes just say no. I'm gonna stay home by myself. I'm, you know, I work in hospitality, so my schedule is not a normal schedule, and it's never been, due to also when I did theater. We perform, and we perform on holidays. The show doesn't stop, just the same as if you were an officer or you work in hospitality in a hospital. And for a while, it was hard to my family accept that, and kind of like embrace and respect it, instead of you're never around, or how come. And now, I just like Thanksgiving, I just want to make sure that it's just an extra day that we do take the pause to be thankful and grateful. But I always tell my kids, this is not, it shouldn't just be this one day, it's every day.
Right. It doesn't matter if it happens on Thursday or Friday or the following
Right.
Monday or the next weekend or the weekend before. We have to be more compassionate and less rigid with ourselves and, understand that, everyone is doing something. Everybody is, in the midst
Mhm.
of creating their lives. The
Yeah.
older we get, the more interesting things become.
Yeah. And it's always, it's not, it doesn't have to be that exact date. It could just be any day that you want to gather the family together. But definitely take the time to remember to make it always throughout the year. Because we shouldn't just have it one time. It should always be a thing that it always happens. So it doesn't even feel that craziness
Yeah.
when you don't do it. So
Right. Right. It's not, it doesn't end up being such a big deal because, you stay connected in other ways.
you had a subject that you wanted to talk about. I know I jumped in first, but tell
I
me, you're
did.
talking about
I
the
lost
map.
it. Whatever it was. I don't know.
You lost it. I should have written it down when we were setting up the cameras, and you mentioned the map.
Yeah,
You know,
so we're talking about exploration, right?
yes.
Exploration of feelings, exploration of self. I mean, we can tie it all in because these things can always be tied together because everything is tied together. It's not always a neat little bow, but it's all tied together. Sometimes it's tangled or intertwined. Um, but I think like I do love the map behind you. I mean, it's like never stop exploring. So when you go into, family situations or settings and you don't necessarily put your guard up, you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm ready for this, and then that's all you see is whatever it is you tell yourself you're ready for. So if you can just go in without expectations and notice, you might be able to recognize some patterns that have um, shifted you or created you, or maybe things that you would like to change about yourself in relationship to how you see your family dynamic. So healing can be happening everywhere. It's just really the exploration of who you are and how you got here, and then noticing that in relationship to the people who are closest to you, or people who raised you, or people who are surrounding you. It's never with judgment, it's always with compassion, if we can remember that.
Oh, to be compassionate with ourselves and our family. I mean, I come from the background of being very respectful to your elders. You don't talk back, you don't say your opinion. Meanwhile, now I'm raising my own family and my kids, and I want to make sure that there is respect, that I am your mother, but that there's a communication that I'm still a human being and that I make mistakes and that I'm not perfect. So I don't want to be put in a pedestal with my kids. that they can see that sometimes I could lose my patience, and I will apologize to them and say, hey, I'm tired, guys. Like, you have a lot of energy and you're jumping around in the air mattress that is about to break, which is what happened. And then I'm like, I want to say I told you so, but I'm just like, so do you remember when I was saying don't jump in the air mattress?
Because it might break. Now we don't have an air mattress. That's how it
Exactly.
goes. And we're not just going to go out and get a new one because, there's a lesson in this.
Yeah, but I grew up in a culture where my family was very, if that would have happened to me, it would have, first of all, before even the mattress would have broken down, it would have been like the way I would have been spoken to was very rough and rigid, and no compassion, like, no understanding that I'm a kid and I need to burn energy, and then if God forbid it would have broken, it would have been worse.
But your instincts told you it was going to break. So, in that particular situation, maybe redirecting them to another way to expend their energy, prior to the breakage, because you knew where that was going, but maybe you needed to break it and,
Listen,
learn the lesson.
It happened. I told them, and then I looked at them and I said, now, I mean, luckily we had the box and it wasn't too long ago, so we could take it back and exchange it. But it could have been worse if I hadn't realizing that the way I was raised was, there were some things in it that weren't okay, that we're all human beings and they're finding their journey, and that it's okay to step back together and look at it and go, you see, everything has a consequence.
Right.
So we jumped on it. It became, I told you this was going to happen, and then it's happening. So we have to fix it. And these are the ways that we could fix it. Maybe with tape on it, but it became a communication. And I think that if I would have I'm breaking the patterns of the chain of the way that we communicate with each other as a family.
Yeah.
And I feel it when I talk to my family members. I was raised by my aunt, who I love to death, and it's like my mother. But when she speaks to me, no matter what it is, she says, that inner child is like, yeah,
closes you right off. There's a fear of consequence and retribution, and yeah. So it's good. It's teaching us, so we can't begrudge what was, because it allows us to create what is.
Absolutely. And then it helps us to forgive that other person. I know that that's just the way she can communicate. Sometimes I'm able to set the boundaries and say, hey, don't text me with an explanation point, because that means you're yelling at me.
Right.
I just say that to her the other day, because I was just like, okay, why are you yelling?
Why are you yelling at me? So you would hear yelling no matter what. That's why texting is so...
I know. She's like, I wasn't yelling at you. I didn't. I'm like, you put exclamation point.
I'm just making a point.
Exactly.
Wait, if I put an exclamation point, am I yelling at you?
That's what it feels like to me when I'm reading it.
Really?
So it's either
I'm emphasizing. I'm like, yes.
Oh, okay, but that's like, exactly. I was going to say that. So that's like, there's different ways, right? So like a yes of excitement and you put an exclamation point, I get it. But if you're reprimanding me, like, I just send you money, why haven't you confirmed? And then your explanation, you're yelling at me. It's all in the content.
It is yeah. But we read whatever message it is that we're reading from where it's coming from anyway. So
of course. And that's the thing about, this new technology with text messaging.
Form of communication, new form of communication, almost exclusive form of communication for young people today.
Yeah, it is. And then, you just read it, and you're reading it. If you're already having a bad day, now you read this message, you're not going to read it in a good spirit. And then you can reply. That's what sometimes I won't reply right away, because I'm like, wait, let me read that again 3 times. Even at work, we communicate through a form of text messaging, right, where everybody writes a report and says, and I love when I'm reading them, because I can hear the way that, like, the intonation of, and I'm like, oh, that was a little strong. Did they realize that they were being a little like
but you can be more objective at work.
Yeah, but I even had a friend of mine who she was explaining to me how there's, you can have a course even at work or with even just reading emails. There's some people like who really like to just send out an email and make it very like, yes, it's done, period. Meanwhile, I'm like the person that likes to be like, good morning, Susan, how are you today? I got your, and I'm a longer. And so then when somebody writes back to me and goes, yes, it's done, I can read it like, oh, they don't like me.
No, they were very busy doing other things and wanted to reply
Exactly.
to you right away.
Exactly. But also being aware that maybe that saying, good morning back. I'm hate when people text me, don't say good morning first thing. I'm like, good morning. Yes. I did this.
All set, all taken care of. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely rest of your day.
But and then my friend said, oh, wow, I realized that I'm very, very like straight to the point. And then when I was reading all these emails and realizing how everyone writes them differently with the same topic,
Yep.
it's their personality and how we have to be aware of like our reply just a little bit, right? Not, you don't have to change who you are, but just
Energy
even through energy.
through emails, through text message,
Yeah. Text messaging.
compassion. We don't know what people are going through, growing through.
Yes. At the supermarket, somebody runs you over, cuts you off in the parking. You don't know what happened.
Listen, I
They
just
got
left
a
the
call.
Woodbury Commons. Two people were fighting over my parking spot. I just drove away because I'm not gonna, it's not my business. This guy wanted to back into it. That one was gonna pull into it. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
It was a great spot. Got there at 7:30 this morning. So I knew that someone would appreciate my parking spot.
To
Yeah.
the point that they were fighting.
To the point that they were going to literally get out of the car and have whatever. And you know what? I just keep right on driving.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You
Not
will
mine.
find another spot.
Not mine to figure out. Yep.
No, it's not. Sometimes. So thank you again, Susan, for taking the time. I always
Yeah.
appreciate these conversations that we have. Again, the energy is always great. So thank you. I appreciate it. And guys out there watching us, if it's your first time, welcome. Thursday nights, we get together and we have a Zoom meditation time period of 30 minutes. Just email us at Susan, tell us the email.
Let's see. SusanJCooney@gmail.com. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes. And let us know.
Yeah. We're also on YouTube, Present Moment
Yeah.
Inc., INC. Plenty of old recordings, previous recordings, I won't call them old, from Thursday Night Meditations, as well as if you're watching us, this is where you found us. So feel free to nose around and let us know what it is you're interested in hearing about. So thank you, Amaryllis.
Thank you. Have a good one.